Hi, my name's Paula Wilkinson and I'm one of the occupational therapists in the pain management service. You've probably tried many things already to help ease your pain, but there may be some techniques that you might benefit from doing a little more often, or indeed trying something else to help ease the sensitivity of your nervous system. We know, and the science backs this up, that making changes to how we respond and manage can really assist in the long term. Here is Jeff, one of our previous patients, speaking about his experiences in pain management. When Jeff first came to the department, his mobility was significantly reduced and he couldn't manage the walk to his local shop. Really, he was restricted to just being able to walk to his car.
You've got to come to these sessions with an open mind, that there is a positive benefit in there somewhere, but it's not this wonderful miracle that's going to take your pain away. What it's going to do is let you work your life and live your life, controlling it yourself.
You probably heard that Jeff explained that there wasn't really a cure for his pain, but by changing some things, he could live his life better. His nervous system, just like yours, can be calmed down, and then it will generate less pain too. So what is this wide approach that Dr. Erdman explained at the beginning of the video? What do we mean by the biopsychosocial approach? Well, of course, it means we need to look at the whole person. Obviously, their biology, their body. And when we think about the body, we look at things like muscles, joints, tendons, and all of that. But we also know that biology is only part of the nervous system, and we've already spent a lot of time looking at that. We obviously have to think about the individual's thoughts and emotions, their psychology. Most people will recognise that because of their pain, they can feel depressed, anxious, miserable, frustrated, to list a few. If we can help to try and manage our emotions better, then the nervous system's threat response can be reduced and we produce less pain. We also need to look at everybody's social situation, e.g., who is around to help you? Who do you take care of? As these factors will be influencing your pain and how you're managing. Some people live on their own, others have supportive others around them, and others have people around them that aren't supportive at all. All these things influence an individual's coping methods and their pain output. And of course, we need to think about your day-to-day tasks and activities, as these too will influence your pain and how you cope with it. All of us will have certain tasks in common, the self-care side of things, such as brushing our teeth, getting washed and dressed. But after that, there's probably a lot of variation in the tasks and roles people do and play as part of their responsibilities in life. The first two factors are things that sit inside your body. The other two factors are things that sit outside of it. So let's think a little bit more about the biopsychosocial approach and the relationship between these factors. As you can see on the screen, we've got those three circles. And obviously in the biological circle, we'd be thinking about your body and nervous system. Maybe a person with chronic pain may have stiff joints, weaker muscles, and have changed the way in which they move. And we call this adaptive movement patterns. That's going to have a knock-on effect on a person's psychological well-being. Maybe they feel frustrated and guilty about what they can't do as easily anymore. Maybe there's some stress and anger about the ongoing impact of not being as strong or as fit as you used to be. And maybe it's difficult, explaining to other people about your pain and the limitations it can cause you. Maybe you even feel embarrassed. That can have a big impact on a person's social situation. For instance, an individual may avoid social situations because of the embarrassment of having to say to people that they can't sit down for the time that it takes to watch a film at the cinema, for example. And maybe because we know that pain is invisible, other people just don't understand, and they don't find it easy to relate to your situation and your pain. Of course, having pain doesn't mean that you're immune to other stresses in life, such as bereavement, family problems, financial pressures, and all of these things influence that biopsychosocial part of you too. So let's look at this same cycle in a more positive way. Let's think about how if a person makes some changes to their biology, just like Jeff did, by improving mobility, flexibility, changing the way in which we walk and organise our movement patterns, and use our aids and equipment more appropriately, then that can have a really positive influence on our emotions and mood. If we're then feeling better about our biological side of life, then we've got maybe increased confidence. We're more relaxed and less tense. And when all that's happening, our brain is producing less pain. If we're producing less pain and we're more able to move well, then perhaps we are in a position where we would start to go out again, make connections with people, and explain our pain and needs more succinctly, so that other people will be more liable to understand and help us when we need it. You know, if we can explain that we can't sit for the whole of a meeting, but we'll need to stand up just to cope with our pain, other people will probably understand that and tolerate it. And the more we do that kind of thing, the less embarrassed and guilty we'll feel about it. Okay, let's try and think about explaining how the brain works. So you've probably seen this FedEx sign many times on the back of vans. You know, you look at it, it's really familiar. But have you ever noticed that there's an arrow and a spoon hidden in that symbol? The company did that to make sure they could promote their company to people that don't recognise English. And of course, if you're an English speaker and you read, you recognise the letters and your brain habitually takes you to understand the letters. And you don't necessarily think about the shapes in between the letters. And that's because we all do things in a routine and habitual manner. And of course, that's the same when it comes to pain. It can be helpful that we do things in a familiar way, such as brushing our teeth. You know, you can go on autopilot when you do it. But when it comes to pain and how we behave in response to it, it's sometimes really positive to take a helicopter view, fresh perspective, and think about maybe changing some of the habits that might have been initially really helpful, but over time have become less so. So how do you deal with pain now? We often find that people swing between two ends of this spectrum. Maybe you can relate to being a pusher. You know, you want to keep going. You don't want to let the pain beat you. You battle on. And eventually you reach the wall where you just can't keep going. And of course, by that point, you need to rest. And so you're catapulted to the other side of this spectrum, where then you need to rest, recuperate, and you do much less. We might call that a flare-up when it's gotten that bad. And you may spend quite a while resting, days, even over a week. And of course, then you maybe want to start doing things again. And so you pick yourself up and start the whole cycle over again. But maybe if you're not a pusher and you've had your pain for a long time, you've become someone that's more resigned and anxious about getting pain or making the pain worse. And you've learned that through certain activities, the pain comes on more, and that's really hard for you. So you've just started adapting and not doing those activities anymore. Maybe you avoid going up and down your stairs during the daytime, limiting how many times you make a cup of tea. That kind of thing. Really normal, really understandable. And maybe, you know, the pattern for most people is that they swing between the two. And of course, this is really normal and nobody's fault. But ultimately, long term, it's not useful. So in pain management, we try to help you to aim for a balance, avoiding flaring your pain by pushing through too much, but also being somewhat active so that you don't resign to your situation and become so inactive that you become deconditioned. So one of the things important to think about is why pacing is important. And this graph explains that that cycle we've just talked about, doing a lot, pushing yourself on a better pain day, can have repercussions. Because obviously, as we know, the pusher will get to the point where their activity will peak, as will their pain, and then they will have to stop and rest. That might mean a bad day is just not doing anything much at all. And when a person gets ready to start again, which could take longer than a day of rest, they might find that gradually over time their activity level reduces. And the other thing that occurs is that the brain learns to produce the pain even sooner. So obviously over time a person gets less fit and less able to do the activities that they once were able to. You might be experiencing this, and if you think back to 6 months ago, a year ago, were you able to walk for a further distance than you can now? Yeah? This is all about tissue tolerance and the experience that pain has on our nervous system and our physical functioning in the long term. I'm going to explain that a little bit more with the help of this slide. So first of all, I'm going to look at this from the perspective of someone that doesn't have pain. So most of us, before pain came along, could do certain activities and we had a level of tolerance to them. So, for example, if you were doing some gardening or DIY in your house or your garden, then you'd be doing that activity and maybe, you know, enjoying it or wanting to get the job done. But if you were keeping going, eventually you might start to get some niggles in your body. You know, your back may start aching, your hands might feel really tired. And that's what's known as your protect by pain line. That's your brain telling you that you're about to reach your tissue tolerance level. That's your basic level of fitness for that activity. But the protect by pain line comes on in order to warn you and give you a bit of a buffer. And you can see that buffer there in that diagram. So you could push a little bit more in the garden and, you know, finish trimming the hedge or doing the lawn. Or you could take a break at that point and, you know, refresh yourself and then go back to it. But you'd have an element of being able to carry on without causing any damage. That's your buffer. But if you worked beyond your buffer, you then could be in the place where you go over your tissue tolerance line for that particular activity, and it's going to be different for everything you do, and everyone else's is different as well. And if you do go over that tissue tolerance line, that's where, you know, you might get that lactic acid build up and more pain the next day, stiffness in your joints, you know, a bit of back pain after bending and stretching a lot. Yeah? So that's what happens for us when we don't have chronic pain. But what changes when we do? So as you can see in this diagram, the thing to notice first of all is the protect by pain line has changed a great deal. Ultimately, it's dropped, so that when a person with chronic pain starts doing their activities, the pain that the brain generates comes quite quickly. That might be just after 5 minutes of a certain activity for you, 10, 15, half an hour. But the Protect by Pain line is there to remind you that it's okay to carry on because you do have a buffer. And that's the other thing that changes when someone has chronic pain. Their buffer becomes much bigger. So you can work within that level of pain and let it increase somewhat in order to improve your functioning. Because if you never work within that buffer of pain and always stop doing an activity as soon as you get any increase in your pain, you would just start avoiding more and more activities and become less and less fit. So if you work within your buffer but not right up to your tissue tolerance line, you can avoid flaring your pain, although we know it's not comfortable to work within your buffer, but you can increase your fitness overall and then gradually become more tolerant for a number of activities. And this is why pacing is really important, and understanding that your buffer and Protect by Pain line means that you will not necessarily be causing damage. So the great news here is that it hurts to do an increase in activity, but you're safe as long as you don't go to that tissue tolerance line. Maybe you can relate to Catherine. She was a pusher and she speaks about her experiences.
I was very much a pusher. I felt if I couldn't do something, I was a complete failure.
So we're going to look now at why coming to pain management involves your perspective and your participation in helping make changes. We can't do this without you. And a scientific self-management approach is proven to help with lots of health conditions, not just pain. So for example, if I had diabetes and took the advice that I was given by the medical professionals I saw, followed the instructions regarding the taking of any insulin and medications, kept a careful eye on my diet, I could really influence my diabetic management for the positive. If I did the opposite to those things, ate the wrong things at the wrong time, didn't use my medication appropriately, I could really mess up my experience of having diabetes, and it would be much worse. And that's exactly the same when it comes to pain. So why is it important that you're on board with this self-management approach? Well, this pie chart diagram shows that if you're lucky, most people might see a health professional for 1 hour in total for the whole of a year. Maybe that's going to be a little bit more for you within the pain management service, but in general, you'll know from the pressures that healthcare staff face that the majority of the time, you're left coping on your own with your pain situation. So what you do in those hours is really, really vital and important. So we need to think about the factors that can turn pain down and calm your nervous system, because these are the things that we look at in pain management and try to teach you maybe a little bit more about. You might already be doing many of these things, and if you are, please carry on. Of course, we need to think about the awareness side of things. The business of how do you do your chronic pain? Noticing whether you're a pusher or more of an avoider now. It's important to consider, recognizing that your life's changed since your pain experience, and that if you're wanting your life to go back to normal, although this is a really, really understandable desire, it's probably not going to happen. So the coming to terms with things is something that we spend a lot of time talking about in sessions with people. We also look at lots of P's, and that's stuff like pacing, problem solving, prioritizing and planning. It's really relevant to think about how you sort and organize your day and the tasks that are most important for you to do, Because if you've got chronic pain and limited energy and resources, then working out what's the most valuable thing to you to do is something that's really important to consider. We also look at factors like sleep hygiene, physical activity, what your lifestyle's like, and who you communicate with and how that's going. There can be lots of techniques and tips to improve all these elements, and these are strategies that we'd work with you on. We do have access to our medical colleagues, such as the consultants and clinical nurse specialists, and at any point whilst you're seeing therapists, if it's indicated that it would be relevant for you to talk further with them for more guidance and advice, we can help you get access to those people quickly. We also spend time looking at techniques like relaxation, mindfulness, distraction, and the need for us to be more self-compassionate as part of ongoing managing our pain. And these factors are things that you might be doing already, and if so, that's brilliant. But maybe they're alien to you and things you've not really had much experience of. So all of these things could be things that are already in your toolbox, but if they're not, maybe it's time to have a go with them. And we'll help you think about how to do that. Here's Carol telling us a little bit about her experiences in the pain management service.
The difference is like night and day for me. The difference would have been that I'd probably still been on couch potato, as opposed to being able to walk around Ferry Meadows without a stick.